What do you think? You think they stand a chance? Well, you're on their side, aren't you? Who are you betting on,
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest one of all?
Look at these lies.
One shall stand, one shall fall.
Even if one of them survives,
the only way to stop him is to make another movie.
Welcome to the Celluloid Mirror. I am one of your hosts, Shawn Mannion.
And I am your other host, Nicole Solomon. On the Celluloid Mirror, we take two films and look at what they reflect about each other, the audience, and our culture at large.
Tonight, we are going to stop, collaborate, and listen to each other talk about David Kellogg's Cool as Ice and Robert Weiss's West Side Story.
And Steven Spielberg's West Side Story.
We will start by giving a brief synopsis of each film and then discuss our response to the films and what the films say about each other, and then wrap up with a bit about the critical response to all of the films. And we have a very special guest today, Sondheim expert, but more importantly, Vanilla Ice scholar, Shawn Setaro.
Hey everyone, how you doing? Happy to be here to talk about two classic films and a movie.
And the reason we have invited Shawn here today is because Shawn Setaro has contributed to the Sondheim Review, and he knows the guy who wrote that one article about Vanilla Ice.
Shout out to Jeff.
We'll link Jeff's article in the show notes. It is an excellent article. He is also an acclaimed music journalist who has written tons of articles, podcasts, a book, and more. You can DuckDuckGo him. It's Shawn Setaro, Setaro. If you're watching this, you're seeing that on your screen. If you're listening later, I just told you how to spell it. And if you look him up on your search engine of choice, you're going to find his stuff. There aren't a lot of Shawn Setaros running around posting stuff on the internet. He's all over the place.
He's all over the place. And I just want to say, I think that DuckDuckGo him sounds weird. It sounds dirty.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I wore my company shirt in honor of the West Side Story lyricist here, Stephen Sondheim.
Oh, he did other things.
Yeah. Oh. He went on to do one or two other things. No one really has heard much about him. He kind of disappeared, but
That's sad.
Yeah.
That's sad. How is everybody doing on this Thursday evening? We're in different cities for the first time in a while.
I know.
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be talking about the Shakespeare of musical theater and the Shakespeare of Shakespeare and the Shakespeare of Ice Ice Baby.
I mean, it's very apparent, really. I mean, do we even really need to tell people how Cool as Ice is connected to Shakespeare? I mean, the depth of reference is the depths that it plumbs are deep. Anyway, we should probably tell people a little bit about the films themselves. In case people aren't familiar. So Cool as Ice, I feel like I don't even have to describe it. People should know, right? Like, this is a super
You've
popular
watched
movie
it in
that
freshman English, right? Everybody has to.
I mean, I've seen it twice. So Cool as Ice.
So have I.
The description from IMDb is: a rapper gets stuck in a small town and falls for a local girl whose family is in witness protection.
That makes it sound like it makes a lot more sense than it does. Also makes it sound cooler than it does because the witness protection is mostly played like for Home Alone
Sean,
style laughs.
Sean, we're going to get into it.
But-
I know you're so excited
But
to share all your ideas about Cool as Ice, but you're going to have to wait.
But that's the exact reason why we decided to move around
Mm-hmm.
the order of things, because we want to talk about them so much.
Mm-hmm.
But Nicole, what is West Side Story? The 1961 West Side Story. What is that?
Oh, the
about?
1961 West Side Story.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that about?
The 1961 West Side Story is about two youngsters from rival New York City gangs who fall in love, but tensions between their respective friends build towards tragedy.
And Shawn Setaro, what's the new one about? What's the 2021 one about?
When young Tony and Maria fall in love in 1957 New York City, their romance helps to fuel the fire between the warring Jets and Sharks, two rival gangs vying for control of the streets.
All right. So now, what do we think? What do we think of these films? You were already starting in on Cool as Ice, so you might as well. What were you going to say about Cool as Ice before we cut you off there?
What'd you think? I have no idea, having watched it with you twice.
This movie is insane. It features arguably the single worst lead performance I've ever seen in a motion picture.
And we just watched War of the Worlds with Ice Cube last night.
Right. Also up there. I think, so there's that. There's sort of a mix of, do they want it to be the wild one? Do they want it to be Home Alone? Do they want it to be Purple Rain? Like, it's like they threw all of them in a blender and added a bunch of suck. And that's sort of what this movie is.
What about West Side Stories, though, Sean? What do you think about those?
I mean, I don't know. We can get into the differences between them later. The books are drastically different. They moved some plot stuff around. They moved, changed some scenes around, added some stuff. But in broad strokes, they are the same. And I don't know, West Side Story was created by like four geniuses, operating at different points in their career, but all sort of, at the top of their creative games, basically. So, that's it's a hard thing to mess up.
I have seen Cool as Ice now twice. Once with a group, text group. I can't remember if that was actually during the pandemic or if it was after the lockdowns were done. But yeah, that was the thing about watching it again for this was, one, it did feel a little bit more like, oh, okay, I get what this is supposed to be. And like the description of it, I'm like, the description sounds somewhat like it could be an interesting movie, and yet it's not. What it is it's a beautifully shot movie. Like it's ridiculous, and we'll talk about that more because that's part of the connection. But like, it's a ridiculously pretty movie, and it's ridiculously well edited. Like, it's well put together for how poorly it's acted, for how poorly it's written, for how poorly it's performed, and not just by Mr. Ice, but like everybody.
Would you say the endless montages are put together well?
Yeah,
they're good montages. They're not adding up to a movie. Sorry, it's not my turn
but they're also
yet.
very, very 90s too. Like, I'm watching it, I'm like, this is like watching like 90s commercials and like really like the really high budget 90s music videos, and it's
Someone shirtless in a dusty place.
Exactly. And like that weird like fast forwarded scene, like those are things where I'm like, if the script was better and if the actors were selling it better, I would be like, this is just genius. This is ridiculous. This is over the top. It's Lynchian. in ways. Like if those things had come, if there had been, honestly, if there had been a different director whose entire oeuvre wasn't just like Playboy video centerfolds and the Inspector Gadget movie that came out at the beginning of the 2000s or the end of the 90s, like maybe there was something there. But West Side Story I had heard about for a really long time, and did not see the original 61 one until a couple years back. I think maybe during lockdowns, during the pandemic, I finally watched it. Maybe before that, but fairly long time before I actually watched it. Really like it. Really love how it's constructed as a film, beautifully shot, directed by the Robert Weiss, who also brought us the first Star Trek film.
And Jerry Robbins, I believe there was some, if I remember right. I
They
don't
share
have
it. I remember
they share
seeing
credit,
that.
but I think it's because Jerome Robbins was originally supposed to direct it, but he is a historically difficult person to work with and wasn't really a film person. If I remember right, he might have been fired halfway through. I'm not exactly sure, but there was some sort of like contentious thing that led to
Well, it's nice
the,
that he at
the
least
dual
got
credit.
that credit. Sometimes the people get fired halfway through and they're just erased from the movie. But beautiful movie, beautifully done. Obviously, there's issues with the brown face and stuff that we need to talk about later. But the music, which isn't really something that I know a whole lot about, but all of the pieces of it, it's a great musical. And then the 2021 one I was excited about as soon as I heard Spielberg was doing it, when I realized that Spielberg had never done he'd never done a musical before. And I was like, why hasn't he done a musical before? Because he's the perfect director of his generation to do one, because, well, what we saw, it's excellent. It's excellently done as a film. I like the changes, having just rewatched them back to back recently. I like a lot of the changes, the way it's rearranged a little bit and the way things are restaged. But all stuff we can talk about more. Nicole, what do you think?
I have also seen Cool as Ice twice. It's a god-awful abomination of an excuse for a film. I can talk more about why later, as well as all the things I have to say about the way it's shot and edited as well. It's kind of a fascinating, terrible film in that way. But it also sounds more fun than it is. It's very boring. I hit a point both times while watching this film where my brain just refused to continue to try to follow the plot. I just checked out. I was just like, don't care. I do not care about this. I do not care about Michael Gross and the witness. I can't even tell you why they were in witness protection. I don't even remember. And I just watched it. I don't want to know.
But you don't like cops, and I think he was reporting on dirty cops.
So
but I think
what?
He was a cop, so.
Yeah, I'm sure he was. Anyway, there's some stuff about that because that's right, because I was thinking about West Side Story and its attitude towards cops as opposed to Cool as Ice is, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Cool as Ice is actually a much more pro-cop film than either West Side Story by, like, a lot. I will say about the West Side Stories, I saw the first one, like, in middle school for the first time. I've seen it a lot of times over the years. A lot to really love about it. Some criticisms that we'll talk about later. The main one for me this time was about I was not feeling Natalie Wood at all in a way that just kept taking me out of it. That said, then when the next day I watched the remake, which also has a lot to recommend it. There's a lot that I love about the remake. Some of the changes I really like, some of the changes I do not like, but respect. Some of it's I've mixed feelings about Tony Kushner's work on the remake. I think it's beautifully shot, edited, mostly very well acted and sung. Big problem with Tony in the remake, which the first time I saw it, could not stand Ansel Elgort as Tony. Second time I saw it, it did not get better for me. If anything, it got worse. So I've got those criticisms, but the two West Side Stories are excellent films in most respects. Cool as Ice is the opposite. And that's what I think of the films.
Yeah, I definitely hated Elgort the first time I watched it, and then this time I just was more absorbed with everything else. But then watching the original again, I think one of the things for me was also one of the things that happened for me was I realized I don't like Tony and Maria in the original either. Like I'm much more interested in Anita and Riff as characters. I think in both versions they're better characters with better performers behind them, which happens with supporting characters, like supporting characters that don't have to fit, in a story like this where you're going in a certain direction and you're trying to adapt, Romeo and Juliet in this case. And these characters, because for me, like the romance between Maria and Tony is absurd.
I mean, they're meant to be impetuous teenagers in all forms of this story, right? Like, I think they go out of their way for whatever combination of reasons in the 2021 to make Maria 18, which I think in the original, she's maybe 2 years younger. And, in Romeo and Juliet, I think they're 14 or so.
Yeah.
But, they're supposed to be impetuous teenagers. And even in the Romeo and Juliet, the question's left open from the beginning of like, what is this love they have, right? Because when Romeo and Juliet begins, Romeo isn't like totally in love with some other girl, Rosalind. And he's like obsessed with it and crying over it all the time and all this stuff. And then he meets Juliet and all of a sudden he's head over heels for her. So, I think the like, how much is this, head over heels, they get married after one day, love, what does it mean anyway? In all versions of the story, is meant to be left open.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shawn and Setaro and I were talking about the difference between not just the two performances of Tony, but how Tony is written in the two films and how he's kind of a bit of a different character. And I totally agree that Riff and Anita are more compelling dynamic characters that I'm more drawn to. Absolutely. And that Tony and Maria, to a degree, are these just archetypes more than they're people in both versions. I will say, given that, the archetype in the first version works a lot better for me because Tony is like this dreamy, like there's something out there more for me. Like his sense of yearning comes across so much more, and he's much more of an innocent who's just like, I'm in love because I'm, a dumb kid. But Ansel Elgort's Tony in the 21 version is like, he's back from prison, he's experienced life, and like that's his motivation about where he's like wanting to distance himself from the Jets from. It's more from like this hard living thing as opposed to just like, man, I don't know, like this gang stuff is kind of and the dreamy version works better for me.
I kind of prefer the 2021 version of that because the dreamy version, like it makes sense with him and Maria for sure, like the dreamy stuff. But
that's my main problem.
It just doesn't
click
click for me. Like the stuff where he's like, yeah, I don't want to get involved with this because I have a probation officer. And, I'm going to get in trouble and I'm trying to stay clean. And his relationship with his specific relationship with Rita Moreno's character, I've forgotten her name, but
Valentina.
She's
Valentina. She's Doc's wife. Yeah.
Doc's wife. Like that really, you know, those really, even though I don't think Elgort sells it very well just from the story and the script, I was much more engaged with that as a story as opposed to the other, and that is a lot more to do, I think, with just the kinds of character that I'm going to respond to.
That makes sense. I would respond to it better in theory. It's just, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said El Gort didn't sell it. Like that, I'm like, maybe this could have worked amazingly, but for me, every second, I was just like, you're not this guy, though. I don't for a second believe that you're the guy you're
Also,
saying
it's like
you are.
it's working against the material in some sense. Like if you look at the stuff Tony sings, right? Like, what is Something's Coming? It's like a guy who
Yeah.
he wants to talk about his feeling and he's left with like metaphors of baseball. Like that's what he knows, right? Catch the moon, one-handed catch, right? Like that's sort of he's inarticulate. He's still a kid in a lot of ways. And, you know, I feel like that's the character, and it's almost sort of playing against that to be like, oh, he's seen some things. He's got violence that he knows about deep inside him or whatever.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, and I guess like it does have a lot to, and I didn't you know, I like Rachel Ziegler fine. But yeah, on the second watch of this one, like I wasn't responding to her any more than I was responding to him. Like maybe it's just the chemistry between them is missing for me. But then she would leave the screen and Andrea DeBose would be there and I would be happy. So Anita would do something and I would be happy, or Riff would show up and I would be happy.
Should we talk about
the connection
why
between
we're
the
here
films?
to talk about all these? Yeah.
I assume it's just because it's jawlines. It's like everybody's got that like sharp jawline.
That was the impetus. But
Really?
then we discovered
That they're all music-centric films, and they're all basically kind of Romeo and Juliet, Cool as Ice to a much, much less degree.
but it is still that.
It
is still
is.
that format. Star-crossed young lovers.
And they
trying
both,
to find a place for their love.
yes. And they all feature sort of girls of ambiguous, or they're girls in the main gangs
Oh, yeah.
who
Well-
have different roles than the other women who surround them.
Girls or assigned female at birth people who we will get into anybody's and what
So yeah,
we have to say about that character.
Yeah, but you have like non-girlfriend women or assigned female at birth people who are like
in the gang.
in the gangs in all the movies.
That's true.
And
Also,
gangs in all the
though,
movies.
there are gangs in all the movies, and also, unlike Romeo and Juliet, class and racial tensions specifically are far more central to the conflict. All films also are very like distinct in the music they present to us.
Music's a big part of all of them.
Music's a big part of all of them. Choreography and dancing is a big part. I feel like Vanilla Ice dances a lot more than he raps.
Dances so well. So now I didn't do much of a deep dive on him, but I did start, like, while I was watching the movie, I did start looking at his Wikipedia article and go like, oh, based on that, which I'm sure is curated, it really sounds like he was just always more interested in dancing, and like the rap thing was there because like the history it gives of him was like doing a lot of breakdancing and then also rapping. That's the way it read to me. He was like doing a lot of breakdancing, and then they were like, and why don't you rap too? And he was like, I could do that, and then he did that. But dancing seems to be his thing. That seems to be what he wants.
I mean, that was sort of how he got noticed initially, was like dancing at nightclubs, and you know, he would sort of do this act in malls around Dallas where he would dance and like rap a little bit. And that was in the mid 80s. That was something you could still do in shopping malls because it was novel and like make a little money. So it was
play
these
Donkey
things,
Kong.
Right. So these things were sort of not quite that separated. It was like he was dancing at the clubs and getting noticed as like, oh, the white guy who can actually dance. And the rapping just sort of went along with it.
These movies also, the design element of all three is very important and distinctive, as well as the arguable cultural appropriation in the explorations of embattled young white masculinity rebelling through song, dance, and love. They all also arguably have a lead performance that's a giant problem. And also 2/3 of them were shot by Janis Kaminski, whose Academy Award-winning work on Schindler's List we discussed back in our episode on that film, as well as Zack Snyder's Justice League. So that is what these films have in common. It is so much.
It's a lot. I mean, yeah, I've forgotten because we talked about the first time we watched Cool as Ice that it had that it was shot by Spielberg's primary cinematographer. Like you look at his history, it's like Cool as Ice and like I think one or two other things, and then it's Spielberg and like maybe one or two other guys, but he's just shot like almost every Spielberg thing for the last 30 years.
Do you think Spielberg saw Cool as Ice and was like,
honestly,
give me him?
Honestly, if I was in that position and I saw Cool as Ice, which why would he have? But if I saw it, I would be like, you know what? I kind of want that cinematographer because this shitty movie looks great. Like the most useless scenes, like the most like bullshit scenes in this movie look gorgeous. Like when the cop is on the phone in the bar, the way that's lit and the way that they've got the smoke machine going in the background, it looks amazing. It looks like something out of like a great noir film in this garbage.
Is
look great.
Is there a possibility, by the way, and people can look this up on IMDb, is there a possibility he actually shot this back to back with Schindler's List?
I mean, I feel like there is. Oh,
they were not that far apart. This was late
Schindler's
91.
List is 93.
Schindler's List is 93.
And I think they were shooting it for a while.
I mean, it's possible. Maybe
it's possible.
You know, maybe this was like a quick weekend thing. We do have a point that has been made in the comments by Jessica, who has said, in Cool as Ice and West Side Story 2021, they both ride sweet bikes. So
they don't ride any bikes in the original West Side Story, huh?
Yeah, I don't think so. So there you go. Bikes coming in, two-wheeled transport coming in.
That must have been Janis Kaminski being like, I got it. Back from a little film I did 30 years ago. Let's get some bikes in here.
I wonder if maybe he was already working with Spielberg on some level. I wonder if there's a degree to which like he was working on this movie and he's like, I can do anything. I'm just going to experiment. I'm going to see how shit looks. I'm just going to like, can we set this up this way? And Kellogg going like, yeah, sure. I don't know, man.
I mean, one thing I want our listeners and viewers to understand about Cool as Ice is that you might think a love story about like a guy falling for a girl whose family is in the witness protection program unbeknownst to her. You might think that's a lot of plot to fit into like 82 minutes or however long that thing is. It's not.
It's not.
It was very heavily padded by those montages that we were talking about earlier that sometimes have no bearing on the plot.
Mm-hmm. Most of them do not feature Vanilla Ice.
No, that's the whole thing. Vanilla Ice, it's the meanwhile back at the ranch. Because I'm sorry, I don't think we really fully explained the plot of Cool as Ice, which is I think Vanilla Ice, his bike gang. Yeah, his bike breaks down.
Because
at
they
a
just
weird place with a weird couple that has giant salt and pepper shakers and are wacky in a very like Nickelodeon kids of 8, like in a very you can't do that on television kind of way.
yeah. You know what? That house
Very
is
barf.
awesome. That house is awesome. I
I
wouldn't want to
think
live in it. I wouldn't want to go anywhere near it if it was on the
Unclear if they're
neighborhood.
being unclear if they're being paid to fix the bike or not.
yeah, but also they're all living there while they're fixing the bike.
Right.
You know, like you do when you move in with your mechanic for a week when they're fixing
Well,
something for you, you and your whole gang.
I think that this film also like its plot structure is really based on like the Incredible Hulk, Knight Rider sort
Kung
of
Fu,
kung
like
fu,
movie
like
of the
they're
week.
just sliding into town,
Yeah.
or more modern Poker Face,
Poker Face.
where they just shows up in town. It's like, yeah, we just go from gig to gig in different towns. We stop, we collaborate and listen. I didn't plan that, but it was there and I went for it. So those are the connections. There's many connections between them. But you know what else is connected to things, Nicole?
No.
It's our sponsor. And
Our
it's
sponsor?
time for
We have one?
a word from our sponsor. The name you will find in the document.
There's sponsors with words?
With words, have you found it?
I found it. It's Global Dynamic Masseuse and Dairy Recovery.
Exactly. Everybody knows about Global Dynamic Masseuse and Dairy Recovery. But what can you tell our fine viewers about Global Dynamic Masseuse and Dairy Recovery?
When your dairy has gone missing, it's a really painful and sensitive time for all of us. For you, because your dairy's gone missing. For everybody else, because who knows where it is, maybe out spoiling on the road, making terrible smells. Point being, when there's dairy on the loose, you need a dynamic, global business solution to recover that dairy. And what better way to recover your dairy than with Global Dynamic Masseuse and Dairy Recovery?
Or,
You-
as I like to call them, Gedumder.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Gedunder. It seems like you know a lot more about Global Dynamic Masseuse and Dairy Recovery Company, Shawn, who didn't want to do this ad with me. Why don't you tell us more?
I mean, I think just everyone knows them, right? Gedumder, gets it, Gedum, Gedun, is their slogan.
Yeah, I mean
So-
that we would say that in my household growing up all the time. Gedumder gets it done. Yeah.
Did you say that after getting your dairy recovered?
No, we just got the masseuse. We didn't really need our dairy recovered. We were very responsible dairy owners. Dairy consumers, so we never really needed it recovered. But the masseuse was great. I mean, they smelled like cheese, but like I like cheese.
I think that's a plus for a lot of people.
I really think so. It's
I
when
think
they
they charge
use the
extra.
cheese that it's unsettling.
Oh, what kind of cheese?
Blue cheese usually.
Oh, and then the crumbles and the...
You got to pay extra for the American.
But I heard that it's really worth it to put in a little extra for the brie.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, one time on Mom's birthday, we sprung for the brie one, and she was happy for a solid like 5 or 10 minutes, which is, more than most can be. So.
And you know what the most amazing thing is about Global Dynamic Masseuse and Dairy Recovery, Shawn's?
No, but I'm pretty sure you're going to tell us.
If you pay for the brie and you're in the middle of your brie massage and somebody comes, a burglar, the Hamburglar, a bird, your cat, the jerky kid next door, it doesn't matter who it is. Someone comes and steals any of that brie. It's a good thing you got Global Dynamic Masseuse and Dairy Recovery to give you that brie massage now, isn't it? You're not going to lose a bit of that brie.
Not
And
one
you know what I heard? I heard that if you go to their website and enter code Van Winkle, you'll get 10% off your next massage and dairy recovery.
Exactly. So DuckDuckGo that website, which, you know, we've mentioned them twice. They should be an actual sponsor.
It should be.
Well, where can we find them, Nicole?
You can find Global Dynamic Masseuse and Dairy Recovery right on Route 13 next to Bennigan's. It's really weird how these businesses that are right next to Bennigan's on Route 13 seem to be turning over kind of quickly.
I mean, when I go and get us our sponsors, I only go to that one strip mall. So,
I mean, that's where all the best sponsors are. So
it's true. It's true.
That makes a lot of sense. And that, Shawn, is and was today's sponsor.
Amazing. Great job. Great job. I think we all learned a lot and have emotional feelings about stuff, about our Global Dynamic Masseuse and Dairy Recovery. So now let's dive in deeper on these films. We mentioned the questionable, let's say, lead performances. You definitely mentioned the lead performances. But do we want to expand on that as we talk about the films? Like, Vanilla Ice is really the center of his movie of Cool as Ice, and he is not. He's terrible. He's not good. He's not good at it.
It is nothing except a vehicle for him.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And so if you're making a vehicle for that, there's really only so much you can do. And it's not like they stacked it with like all these amazing supporting characters and memorable performances or something.
No, they really didn't. And like, I feel like all of his really laughable lines, like what is it? Drop the zero and get with the
hero.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like somebody could have sold that. Not well. Nobody could have sold it well, but somebody could have sold it better. Could Prince have done that one better?
Prince could have absolutely sold that, and that has everything to do with why like this doesn't work as The Wild One or Purple Rain or any of the other Home Alone, whatever else it's trying to be, because Prince had charisma.
It's true.
You put a camera in front of Prince, and the camera is going to love him. Vanilla Ice.
You put a camera in front of Vanilla Ice, apparently he squints and turns his head to the side a little bit.
He cocks his head.
Yeah.
He squints. Oh, and he'll turn his head so you can see like the disturbing differences in his haircut that looks like a skin disease.
Well, I mean, it's a choice. There's patterns.
It's very era appropriate.
Yes, but in that era, other people doing that did not look like they had a skin disease.
Fair.
It's not the overall style he was going for. It's the horrific execution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like this movie, it's just him. You know, like West Side Story, if one of the actors, or even more than one, like, you're not feeling the performance, there's a lot else going on. And in this, there is nothing else going on except those montages that could honestly be from a completely different movie. They have nothing to do.
I would watch those montages just on their own. Like that weird one with the family where they're all going like in fast forward. I would just watch that on its own as its own little thing.
Why was that in this movie though?
I don't know. Like
To pad it?
it was one of those like the fuck is going on, but I'm excited. I'm like, what is this? What is this? And then the rest of the movie came back and I was like, oh yeah. I did have fun with it the second time watching it though. Like because I knew it was bad, I was just like, okay, now I can just like enjoy the weirdness of it. It was not good. I did not like enjoy the movie overall, but I had more fun with it as a bad movie where like somebody was doing a really good job, Janusz Kaminski. And so I could appreciate that work. It's kind of a thing like what we've talked about before on the show where it's like, I don't like movies that are bad for the sake of being bad. But like a bad movie where people are trying their hardest to do the best job they can, I can still appreciate. And I think that is the case with this movie because at the very least, it is shot so well. So absurdly well for how bad it is overall. That I can at least give it credit for that and not just being like, somebody cared about what they were doing, even if it didn't fit the movie. Mm-hmm.
Well, you can tell they had a lot of money to spend on it because they got like the fifth guy on the call sheet from Family Ties to have a supporting role.
Hey! Now he carried the Tremors franchise after Kevin Bacon was like, "What? We're doing more than one." Like he's like in every Tremors movie, I think. He becomes the star of that franchise.
There's Stephen Keaton we're talking about, by the way, for the listeners. I don't even know his real name.
Michael Gross.
Michael Gross, okay.
Nobody was like, no performances were singing in Cool as Ice.
No.
Let's just say. Not everybody was like,
you know what? I kind of like the little brother,
but...
though, this time. I kind of enjoyed the little brother. He was very little brother.
Vanilla Ice's performance did remind me a bit of Ansel Elgort's performance, I will say.
Yes, he does look like a shark who's trying to eat his leading lady.
Yeah, I kept saying, I was just like, Tony Bateman. Like, Ansel Elgort just has this sociopathic...
I mean, I don't really want them to remake American Psycho, but if they're gonna... We've got two good options right there for Patrick Bateman, either Ansel Elgort or bring Vanilla Ice out of retirement.
Yeah, are you doing this to hurt me?
Yeah, a little bit.
No, that's not. No, we will settle this later. I don't like anything
I don't want them
said.
To remake it at all.
I don't either. But if they're going to, that is not.
Just go with the guys who don't need to actually do any work. They just show up and they say words.
Who are blanks rather than someone who tries really hard to act like a blank and like thinks about it. Yeah.
That's
not someone who is a blank.
And you know what? Bring everybody else back in the exact same roles. Mostly just because I want to watch.
You love Jared Leto so much?
Yeah, because I want to watch Jared Leto get an axe to the head again. Yeah, a little bit. More than
we could do the thing where everyone's a Muppet except for Patrick Bateman. Nicole's thinking about it.
I am thinking about it. Anyway.
Speaking of which, random interjection. There's going to be a Muppets episode of Star Trek next year.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. What does that mean?
All of the characters are being played by Muppets in the episode.
On which Star Trek?
Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which is...
Okay, got it.
They do a lot of funny stuff on that one. They did a musical episode. It's fun.
So
anyway.
Just to keep things moving for a second, we have the Vanilla Ice as a terrible lead performance. We have, moving on to West Side Story 61, we have Natalie Wood, who, I think as an actor is leagues better.
Definitely.
Definitely acts very well, I would say. The issues are, she is not Puerto Rican. The Sharks, which her brother is in, is a Puerto Rican gang. She's meant to be a Puerto Rican Catholic named Maria. and she didn't sing. They brought in Marnie Nixon, who was a ringer for every actress in this period who got cast in a musical and couldn't sing, Audrey Hepburn and thousands of other people. We actually have a record in the other room of her doing a Mary Poppins like sing along record that Julie Andrews, they couldn't, pay Julie Andrews to do. So Marnie Nixon is there doing a Julie Andrews impression the whole record. Like she was the ringer for that era of musicals. That's who sings Maria's role.
And look, I really like Natalie Wood as an actress. I really love her in Rebel Without a Cause. In general, the old Hollywood mythology, getting fucked over and probably murdered by some man. I feel for her. That what got kind of dark. Anyway, Natalie Wood, she's great. However, not Puerto Rican, can't sing. And I'm not saying that the brown face element would have been okay if she could sing, but every time the song started, this time I was so aware of the fact that it wasn't her. And I was thinking like, yeah, if this was you singing, there would be an argument at least that like, well, she could sing the fuck out of it. But it's like, but she can't sing at all. And she's doing this accent. And this time that just really...
All of that really stood out for me this time. And it's only the second time I've watched the original, and I should watch it more because I do enjoy it. I actually bought it for this time, but all the brown face, like all the makeup stood out more. I think the last time I watched it, I still had my old TV, which was smaller. So now I have the bigger TV. And so now all of everybody's face paint is way, way more obvious. And I'm just like, oh, right. Like, what is it? Like Rita Moreno is the only person?
I don't even know.
I'm not sure which of the Jets are or aren't Latino of any sort of persuasion.
But that's the big issue with the original, that and we can talk a little bit about what it is to have Sondheim and Bernstein doing West Side Story at all, being like, we're going to tell Romeo and Juliet, but it's going to be about rival gangs, and it's going to be, like a kind of mixed ethnic white street gang and a Puerto Rican street gang, which was not the original.
No, it was originally right? East Side Story with Jews and Catholics.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's a complicated thing, because on the one hand, I do kind of think that the people who made West Side Story may have been better equipped to do East Side Story. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I'm also not going to complain about the fact that we have a classic musical that now at least they are more likely to be casting Puerto Rican people in the, I'm not sorry about having classic musical roles that aren't for white people.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. But so it's when you're dealing with these kind of classic properties that have been like done and redone, and the problems with their origin, and it's very, it's not that it's not that I think, oh, they should have done that. Let's have, fewer stories with people of color in them. But at the same time, and Sondheim, love Sondheim, absolute genius. He will be the first person to say, I think, that he is not necessarily, that he actually, Shawn can tell us more about this, that he did not necessarily do what to his own standards was the best job writing for the characters he was writing for in West Side Story. It was also one of his earlier...
it was he had one unproduced show that kind of fell apart at the last minute called Saturday Night, but this was otherwise his first major job. And it was just that he was sort of like, Leonard Bernstein was originally supposed to be the co-lyricist, but eventually did not. But Lenny, as anyone who has seen the awful biopic of him knows, is a big sweeping romantic guy. Sondheim was young. Sondheim had been mentored by Oscar Hammerstein, who is like a big romantic, who's always writing about, nature stuff and sweeping love. And he said, I'm not going to do that. It's the mid 1950s. I'm the young hot guy. I'm going to use the vernacular. I'm going to write lyrics how people talk, right? I'm going to try to do that. But he's working with an older, more powerful person who's like, let's write about love and the stars. And they basically battled for 2 years. And you can see elements of both of their approaches in the lyrics that remain. So that's sort of where you get, where you get the mix. I Feel Pretty, which I think Nicole is specifically referring to. He, Sondheim, till the end of his days, regretted making that so wordy. Um, because he felt like, well, a girl like Maria wouldn't be saying, wouldn't be doing all these tricky internal rhymes and stuff, right? But he says basically by that point he'd been rhyming like Moon, Spoon, and June for 2 years putting this show together, and he wanted to show what he could do. Um, he was hungry for an opportunity to show what he could do with inner rhymes, trick rhymes, stuff like that. And so, it kind of got in the way of writing for who he thought Maria was. And to the end of, until he died, he always, would mention that.
Huh.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Vanilla Ice, need we say more in terms of arguable issues of cultural appropriation and why
I mean, he's like the
Cool
poster
as
boy
Ice is
for it,
here?
right?
Yeah.
Like from the early 90s. Like,
I mean, so the sort of the interesting thing about this is like, in a sense, it's less problematic in that Vanilla Ice definitively was embedded in the rap scene in Dallas. When he first got started, he was performing at, the same tiny, crowded, dangerous clubs as everyone else, and all of that. And even when he was a star, as Jeff's article points out, he'd continue to shout out uh, rappers he really loved. But he was young and not that bright and caught in this like whirlwind thing of like, oh my God, a popular white rapper. We have, let's make him a star in the culture. And he completely went along with it, obviously. And it seemed to kind of mess with his head a little bit. But he definitely was like part of the rap universe in like the late 1980s, sort of pre-stardom, in a way that like, Sondheim and Robbins and Arthur Lord, who wrote the book, and Leonard Bernstein certainly didn't know anything about Puerto Rican gangs except possibly what they saw in the headlines that day.
right.
Yeah, they were coming at it much more from the outside than Vanilla Ice was.
Right.
I'm
Which
gonna
is
go
sort
out
of
on a
interesting
limb.
twist. Yeah.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that, like, yeah, I totally hear you. And in this case, the more problematic work is definitely the one I think is better overall.
Right.
I mean, it happens sometimes. Sometimes it's problematic and it's good. Things we have to contend with.
Part of why West Side Story is problematic and good also, that's also part of why I think Cool as Ice is problematic and not good.
Why?
Because West Side Story is hella gay and Cool as Ice is not. Most musicals, if they are good, are extremely gay. It's just how it is. Cool as Ice is really trying to not be gay. West Side Story, especially the 61 one, where Hays Code was such an interesting time and it allowed you in some ways to be so much more gay because there was so much denial about it that it would just be like, oh no, that's just... The choreography in the original West Side Story, when they're fighting, they're really loving each other,
I mean,
There's so much.
Well, to your point, Nicole, the first thing Sondheim says about West Side Story in his book, he never wrote a memoir, but he did kind of a collection of lyrics that he, annotated a little bit about each show and whatever. The very first sentence, very first two sentences, he says, for most people, West Side Story is about racial prejudice and urban violence. But what it's really about is theater, musical theater to be more precise. It's about the blending of book, music, lyrics, and most important, dance into the seamless telling of a story.
That's, I mean, and
which in the 50s, 1957 was, it had been done, but not a ton.
that's so interesting because that's so much of why I think probably all of us would point to this as being an example of a very successful musical.
Yeah.
Because that is how it tells the story.
Yeah.
And and I think both versions of West Side Story are also very successful adaptations of stage musicals to the screen because the camera and the editing are also telling the story. They're not just, taking something from the stage and shooting it with a camera, but they're reconceiving it for the medium in a way that takes advantage of it. And that's really nice to see.
Yeah, I think I probably ranted about this when we talked about Wicked months ago, but I don't listen to our show. But like I think these are great movie musicals. Both of them are great movie musicals. West Side Story because of that, like, because they are using the medium, because they're not just like shooting it proscenium style or shooting it like they're on a stage. Like the original has that a little bit more, but that has more to do with technical limitations of the 1960s. Like I think that was one of the great things about Spielberg doing it in 2021 is that like he has 60 innovations that he can draw on since the first one. And I think like remakes, people always complain these days about, there's everything's remakes and reboots and sequels. But like this one, it takes it shuffles the story a bit. Like in some ways, we can argue whether or not they're good or not. But what it does is it says like, well, what are we doing that's different than they did 60 years ago? And that's, we can move the camera more. We can be a lot more flexible with this and look at everything that has happened in the last 60 years, a lot of which even has been driven by Spielberg himself, like as far as innovation on this scale. And, the kind of remake that does in a lot of ways deserve to be made, which is this is a great story, has great cultural significance, and we can play with it. And of course, it being also staged, the stage is restaged with new casts and new spaces all the time, and like the tradition of that, I think, is important. Film has become such a weirdly static form for stories.
And I would be very happy if Cool as Ice had been like a good 1991 version of The Wild One or whatever else, where the person comes into town, has an adventure, finds love, and moves on. If, that's a fine story structure template. That's fine. But there's nothing else there in that one. So there's no reason to be recycling it. Also, I'm thinking about these three films. I'm thinking about the like white male protagonist, right? And everybody else, and how we brought up earlier, and I want to be sure to talk about it a little bit. Anybody's in both West Side Stories, and I have no idea what the name was of the girl in Vanilla Ice's bike gang. I'm not going to look it up. No offense to her. I'm so sorry. I don't think they ever say it. There's one
I can't
girl.
remember if they say anybody's names.
I don't think they necessarily do. But
there's the fat one, there's the girl.
You remember
that's
more
about
than I
it.
do.
Yeah.
There was somebody else.
Yeah, there were other people, and just, I think they each had maybe one characteristic.
Yes. Whereas I gotta say, in both versions of West Side Story, you've got a lot of characters. You have way more characters in West Side Story than in Cool as Ice, and they also all come across a lot more clearly and strongly than anybody does in Cool as Ice. Like, with just a little bit, with the bits they give individual characters in the songs, tiny bits of dialogue, the direction, like, people are coming across. Another thing, talking about the gayness, both West Side Stories are very much about queer characters. I will die on that hill. They were made by queer people. Those people knew what they were doing. They weren't like accidental. There are gay people in the Sharks and the Jets, and there is probably a trans guy in the Jets. We've been using she, her pronouns to refer to anybody's because that is exclusively how that character is referred to in any version of West Side Story that I'm aware of. So I don't want to be like, I'm going to decide what this fictional character should be. So I'm going to keep saying that. But to me, every time I watch either of these, it is nothing but clear that anybody's is a trans guy. And the reason you could get away with it in 1961 is people were just like, oh, she's a tomboy. And also, as Shawn told me, in the play, do you want to share
Yeah,
this
so in
revelation?
the play, the final time we really see, not the final time, but one of the last times we see anybody's, she is telling the Jets, hey, I spied and I found out that Chino's here looking for Tony and he's murderous. She like basically did some deep spying into Shark's territory. And as she's about to run out and leave docks, one of the gang members turns to her and says something like, "You did good, buddy boy." And it's
Okay,
like the first acknowledgement she's gotten from the Jets the whole time and hanging the outskirts.
And she just
In
lights up.
in the play, and she lights up, but in the play, it says very distinctly she falls in love with the Jet member who says it to her.
Which
at
is
that
not
moment.
how I ever took that. And Shawn and I were talking about it, and I'm like, it's not that I find that impossible. I mean, maybe anybody falls in love with him, maybe. But that's not what that moment's about.
No, I don't think it is. But I did kind of read it as a certain, not maybe falls in love, but definitely like watching it again the other day, I was like, oh, there's like a.
Well, it's about being seen, though. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
And it might have a romantic component, and it might not. But like, that's. I think in 1961, people were just like, "Oh, she's in love, and now she's gonna grow her hair long," and I'm like, "That's not."
Well, maybe not grow her hair long, but at least like
But interestingly, as Nicole pointed out, that the line is that Action says to her is, "You done good, buddy boy."
Mm-hmm.
So
I
he explicitly says boy, and
Yeah.
that's tied up
Embracing
to the
her
acknowledgement
part of it.
and the seeing her.
There's also
Yeah.
a song that was cut from West Side Story that I didn't know about until Shawn dug it up recently,
Yes,
where
yes.
anybody's gets like a verse
Oh, that's nice.
Yes.
going
Yeah, so-
into.
Yes, so the song is called Like Anybody Else, or Like Everybody Else. And the idea, it's Arab, who is the shortest, Baby John, who is the youngest, and anybody's who is a girl, and why can't this one be taller? Why can't this one be older? Why can't this one be a boy like everybody else?
Oh, okay.
Is
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of the conceit of the song.
But like going into it, and it sounds like a trans guy being like, "Hey, I'm a trans guy, but I don't have that language."
Right.
Yeah.
Is exactly
Why
what it
can't I?
sounds.
It explicitly says why can't I be male like everybody else? Is sort of how the verse ends.
Like, I don't know. The character's telling us who they are.
Yeah.
And I think I just think it's interesting that even in a cast of so many characters, we've got this one character that we just talked about for a few minutes, this very minor character. And
Minor,
there's
but
more going
important.
on than there is, minor but important, more going on, though, than there is with the lead characters in Cool as Ice.
Right.
Well, but I would say one of the things that does make West Side Story so good, especially as an ensemble, is that like those characters, all have something to do, even if it's just minor, just a way that they move a piece of the plot forward, or they're being a foil for somebody, especially in the Jets. Like I don't even remember all of their names in them, but like there's something there. It's one of the things that it makes an ensemble effective is when there's a reason to have that many people. I did look up the biker from Cool as Ice. It is Princess is her name.
Are you fucking kidding
Princess
me?
is her name, and she's played by Allison Dean.
She's very pretty. She had better screen presence than the leads. She was like, had no lines, but yet I was watching her like doing some business with those giant salt and pepper shakers.
Well, it might help that I do believe she is one of. She's in Coming to America. She's Patrice McDowell. That's not the main love interest in Coming to America, is it? That's like her sister or something?
It's been a long time since I saw Coming to America, but
Yeah.
I'm glad she
So-
did other things. And I'm sorry that she didn't have a role in this film. Like she didn't.
She got to ride a cool motorcycle and see that girl who drives a horse.
She drives a horse.
Whatever it is.
She drives a horse, and the horse.
Right.
Oh yeah, he's such a fucking vanilla.
Yeah, he meets by running into her horse, like spooking her horse, so it throws her off. Yeah.
That's like whatever the not cute version of a meet cute is, a meat douchebag or something. I don't
And
know.
then
a meat injury, a meat hospital. Yeah.
But then he just like badgers her until she goes out with him. And the tagline, I saw a tagline on a poster that was like, when a girl has a heart of stone, how do you melt it? Just add ice. And I am really sorry I just said that.
I'm sorry you said that too.
I had to share it because I'm like, it's kind of how I felt when I saw that Smurfs ad. What did it say, Shawn? That Smurfs ad we got upset about?
Oh yeah, it was like they used blue wrong or something.
It'll blew you away.
Yeah, something like that.
No, that's
You could have
not
done
okay.
a blue pun that worked. There are so many. I'm not going to go into them now.
But speaking of just like things that are out there in the world beyond our conversation, how did critics and maybe like everybody else respond to these movies? Do you have anything you'd like to share? Maybe about Cool as Ice, Nicole. Did you find any good reviews?
Sure did. First off, we are not using Rotten Tomatoes on the Celluloid Mirror any longer because Rotten Tomatoes is bad. It's bad for films. It's bad for film criticism. It's bad for my eyes. It's bad for my brain. Instead, we are looking to Metacritic or Metascore, Metacritic's Metascore, which is what I used to use, and it's much better. Maybe we can talk about why later, but for now, just know that Metacritic gave Cool as Ice a Metascore of 24. This indicates generally unfavorable reviews.
Generally.
There are outliers always, I'm sure. Today, we're going to hear from the San Francisco Chronicle. I don't actually know who wrote this San Francisco Chronicle review. That information was not on the internet for me easily, and I did not want to do that much digging, but whoever it was wrote that David Kellogg tries to inject energy into the picture with speeded up sequences and smash bang cutting, and the art direction is bright and eye-catching, but it's just gourmet dressing on dead lettuce. The movie is unable to balance Ice's aspirations to general adult level coolness in a story clearly designed to appeal to the sensibilities of pre-teenage girls, and the result is bland and often absurd. Agree with everything except like the sensibilities of pre-teenage girls. I'm like, the fuck do you... How?
I don't think this was
Where?
for them. I don't know who this was for. Maybe teenage boys?
I feel like they didn't know who it was for, and that's part of the problem.
I think it's an incel movie before they got incels to sell movies to. I mean, those guys existed. They just hadn't figured it out yet.
I love it when in 1991, okay, I have no idea who this is. I'm going to guess that a dude wrote this, though. I am going to guess.
It feels like a dude.
I mean, for one thing, just playing the odds in 1991, if there's a critic, odds are they're a dude, even more than today. And he doesn't. How? How is this the sensibilities of pre-teenage girls? How? Pre-teenage girls don't want that.
Because I mean, obviously, it's just like when stuff is dumb, it's because girls like it, right?
Oh, it's dumb and he's cute.
Yeah.
Except he's gross anyway.
I will say I do not mind an adult male movie reviewer not knowing what the sensibilities of pre-teenage girls are. Like, I feel like to a degree an adult male movie reviewer should not.
Yeah, unless maybe they're a parent or something.
Perhaps. But even parents,
absolutely right.
I don't know.
All the more reason
or pre-teenage
for them
boys,
to not,
just to be clear.
All the more reason for them to not write about those sensibilities in their reviews.
Yes, exactly.
It doesn't make it better that he's trying to, but he's wrong.
So I think objectively we can all agree the movie is bad, right? And that certainly, no matter what, had it been released in its current form, it would have gotten bad reviews. But we also have the timing to think of, right? If you're making a movie about a one-hit wonder, by the time you make the movie, their hit's over. And in this case, it was actually a little more complicated because there was a full-on backlash, right? The thing that sort of stopped his rise was, the weird thing that Jeff's article gets into about him sort of quote unquote lying about his background, which is like slightly more complicated, but effectively, and then like he just got caught up in a mush of discomfort about race and popularity and rap and authenticity. And because he was young and kind of dumb, didn't handle it very well. And that happened about 6 or 8 months before this movie came out, including him being mocked on, the hottest comedy show of the era in Living Color.
By Jim Carrey.
By Jim Carrey at the height of his comedic powers, in just a devastating skit.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's a very funny skit.
We can link it.
Yeah.
And so...
And also the Arsenio.
Right, and this very tense interview with Arsenio Hall that happened at basically the exact same time. All that happened in early 91, and then this movie takes till October of that year to come out. And so you're coming out into that world too, where there's like full-on backlash against this guy.
Yeah, like, I mean, it went from... There was a second when I was a child and Vanilla Ice was out where a lot of kids thought Vanilla Ice was cool.
Right.
And then they didn't.
Now,
we had monoculture back then.
I will say, though, that there is some degree today of mixed response to the film, arguably, as I did dive into Letterboxd. And I took a look at a couple of recent, as in, I didn't go very deep. I ordered by most recent to oldest. And maybe I went 2 pages in to find things that were entertaining. So of the half-star reviews, because I'm not going to go to no stars because I don't know if they're just not rating them. There is John Stockton 23 saying sexual harassment the movie, which is
he does climb into the girl's window and into her bed.
Yeah. It's scary. It's a horror movie in many respects.
Yeah.
And then Elizabeth also giving a half-star review saying, so maybe the 90s wasn't as cool as I thought. And Elizabeth, I'm sorry, but it was not. No matter how uncool you think it is even now, definitely it was a void. Now we've got the 5-star reviews from a nice bassist who gave it 5 stars and said, straight up fact. I don't understand it, but it's confident. It's short. So, I guess there's a nice bassist with a counterpoint. And then Jake WI33 says the greatest film in the history of films, and then quotes the film saying, that chick that drives the horse. And I'ma go cross the street and, schling a schlong.
Forgot about Schling a
Forgot
Schlong.
about that. They were trying so hard with these catchphrases. They really just
That
and it
Schling
just
a
didn't work.
Schlong, that's just dirty.
That's the sexual harassment, like 100% the sexual harassment. All right. Let's move on to a better film. Let's move on to West Side Story 61.
So I just want to interject
Oh, go please,
about
yeah.
that for 1 second, which is to say, yes, it ran 700 something performances. I think anything over 500 is safe to call a hit. But it wasn't Cats, right? It didn't run for 20 years. Ran for
Right.
about 2 years. And some of the people involved are pretty clear that the reason we think of West Side Story as this like world historic, unimpeachable classic is the movie. That if the movie hadn't happened, it might be one of a number of well-regarded musicals of the 1950s.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
That does make a lot of sense.
The movie really just sort of being in some ways a commercial for the thing in general, the musical in general, kind of like Marvel films are really just toy commercials. So West Side Story being commercial for. Do you want to attack this one? Either of you share it?
I mean, I can. Or sorry, Shawn, do you want to? I
No,
did the
go
last
for
one.
it. Yeah, go for it.
I picked this review quote. So the 1961 West Side Story has a Metascore on Metacritic of 86, which is universal acclaim. But I will point out that is 86 out of 100. It's not, 86 is very high, but that's like a B plus, right? That's not, this is not like the highest rated thing on Metacritic at all. There were people who didn't like it. I was reading some reviews and I learned that response was, of course, as it usually is, more mixed than the reputation ends up being. And amongst those who didn't love it, it got some, absolutely stellar reviews. It got a lot of like very good, but some problem reviews. And then some people just were not feeling it, including one of my favorite critics to read, The New Yorker's Pauline Kael. Thank God Quentin Tarantino's not making a movie about her. Oh my God, I just remembered that almost happened. It's all right. It's not
Let's
happening.
not talk
He's not
about
doing
him.
it.
Let's not
He's
talk
not
about
doing
him.
it. We're not
It's
talking
all right.
about him. Who?
He doesn't exist.
The irony of this hyped up slam bag production is that those involved apparently don't really believe that beauty and romance can be expressed in modern rhythms, because whenever their Romeo and Juliet enter the scene, the dialogue becomes painfully old-fashioned and mawkish, the dancing turns to simpering, sickly romantic ballet, and sugary old stars hover in the sky. When true love enters the film, Bernstein abandons Gershwin and begins to echo Richard Rodgers, Rudolf Frimmel, and Victor Herbert. I was like, I don't exactly agree with your take, but very fair point.
Right. This kind of goes to what I was talking about like Bernstein, obviously what he did for Broadway music is unprecedented. If you think of the music in On the Town, if you think of the music and some of this stuff in the dance scene in America, like he was incredibly experimental for musical theater in terms of rhythms and the sort of freedom and the jazz he was bringing to theater music. And yeah, it does kind of go away for, songs like Maria and things like that, because he was also a big old softy romantic who loved Moon and June and stars in the sky. And, Sondheim was obviously trying to push him to be like, no, let's make these more vernacular and like, let's treat it how people really talk. And there was that tension. So like, yeah, you're getting sort of both aspects of Leonard Bernstein, right? The jazzy, boundary pushing composer and the like starry-eyed romantic softy in here. So yeah, I can definitely see what she's saying. I again don't necessarily agree. I think the Tony and Maria stuff works by and large very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's definitely getting something that's really there and real tensions that were involved in the creation of the show.
And then, just like with Cool as Ice, there's some recent art disagreements on the film. Would you like to share the Letterboxd reviews, Shawn?
Sure. So this is 1/2 star review from Benji the Good Boy. Why and how is this a classic?
Oh no, that's two separate reviews.
Sorry. Let me put a space in there.
Pookie.
There you go.
Sorry, from Pookie05. Why and how is this a classic? Bro, please broaden your movie horizon, please. This is a god-awful movie, but I have respect for the fits. The clothes were amazing. Fair enough, the clothes were amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. They got their priorities. They got their things.
Yeah. Next one from Benji the Good Boy. Sometimes a musical theater enjoyer will be like, what a great song, and I will have so little understanding of what the fuck they're talking about. So racist, our leads are terrible. Beat Fellini for best director, shut up. I assume they're talking about the Oscar race of 1962 or whatever. You guys can...
I'm guessing that's what it would be. I don't...
Yeah.
Nicole knows how I feel about the Oscars. I don't care.
But I think they're sort of telling on themselves a bit with musical, saying musical and theater enjoyer as someone who is not them, which, fine. It's a dividing line, but I think if that's not your thing, then I don't know.
Why are you
don't have an understanding of what they're talking about. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's
like horror movie. It's like people who hate horror movies watch horror movies and say this was terrible. It's like,
right.
Well, it's just not your thing. That's fine.
Or it reminds me of growing up in the '80s and hearing, well, I don't listen to rap or country.
Just the '80s, man. That was still happening when I was growing up in the '90s.
Benji,
I would say that, and then I've corrected myself. But
Benji the Good Boy has points. I agree with both of you that Benji the Good Boy is clearly putting themselves outside the realm of musical theater enjoyer, and thus their take on West Side Story is what it is. However, I thought the way they phrased it was funny.
It is funny.
I think they have a point about the racism.
They do.
I don't think Tony is terrible. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's award-winning. I don't think Tony is terrible. I do think Natalie Wood's pretty terrible. So a point there too. And he's got a point about the Oscars, man. I mean, he's got a point about what the Oscars.
But some people still loved it. So what about these people who loved it?
Oh, do I know about it?
There's Samantha with an exclamation point who said, boys, parentheses, men, dancing in the street will always my downfall. I will forever love this film. And then star symbol, because that's all it was, and I don't know what else to do. It was just like a little star icon was their username. West Side Story has done more for class solidarity than Marx ever could. Oh, my heavenly days, the color, the choreography, literally every single shot, the color, the styling, the soundtrack, the color, and the color put me in a good New York, and I'm happy.
Yes. So this is the class thing is very, very true. I think it both, Kushner spells it out, spends many more lines spelling it out than Arthur Laurent, who wrote the book, and I forget who wrote the screenplay for the movie, but it's 85% the book of the play. Kushner uses a lot more lines to spell it out, which, take or leave. But yeah, there's very good class politics, and the cops, as Nicole mentioned at the beginning, are very explicitly the bad guys who are shown playing the races against each other, and who are shown to, completely use violence indiscriminately, and are the ones enforcing whiteness, right? They are the ones who get to decide which people who live in this neighborhood are white and which are not.
And you see a little bit of flux in it in the 61 version when some of the epithets start coming out that...
Right. All of a sudden someone's they
We don't need to go through a
don't
bunch
need to
of
go into
slurs.
it, but yeah, like
Yeah.
when the cops are pressed, then the ethnic slurs start coming out.
I really did find watching this time that West Side Story is a lot more like explicitly, absolutely just straight up anti-cop than I remembered. And it's interesting because like it's very different from Romeo and Juliet in that way, where it's about like these two feuding families and they've just always been feuding and it's this eternal conflict. And that's not really what it is in West Side Story. In
No.
both versions, like Shawn said, Tony Kushner is a lot more like, no, I'm going to make sure you understand exactly what I am trying to show you here. Whereas in the 61, it's a lot more subtle. I appreciate Tony Kushner trying to make sure people get stuff because people often don't. However, for my own personal viewing, I enjoy the more subtle approach a lot more. Because with Kushner's script, sometimes I was like, I get it. I really get it. You don't have to keep repeating this. I actually thought the 61 version goes more into how the cops are the ones keeping down all the street kids, but they're also a lot more on the side of the Jets. They're kind of like, guys, we can't let you do some stuff, but at the end of the day, like, we're here for you, and we just want to get these guys the fuck out of here, just like you do. And it's about the portrayal of how race helps uphold white supremacist capital in the United States specifically. It's a pretty good sociologically accurate picture of exactly what's going on. And that's part of what makes it so tragic, because it's like the cops are egging it on, like directly, it's not just, oh, these hot-headed kids can't get it together. That's what the cops say. But it's being caused by is a lack of options and them being pitted against each other with that pent up energy.
And created, not coincidentally, by, Jerome Rabinowitz and Arthur Levine and Leonard Bernstein and, and a young Stephen Sondheim, right? Like for, very New York, very Jewish people of an era where Judaism was a little more off-white than it would become in the ensuing decades.
Oh, don't get me started on portrayals of Judaism in Hollywood in like the middle of the last century and what the ADL had to do with that. I won't get into that, but
because we are running low on time, so let us move on to the review for West Side Story 2021. Do you want to read that, Nicole?
Sure. West Side Story 2021 had a Metacritic Metascore of 85, also indicating universal acclaim, so 1 point below the original, virtually the same. And Alan Eng in Film Threat said that all Spielberg really did was take a masterpiece, keep it a masterpiece, and add a little flair and backstory. He took gold and made prettier gold. Not a criticism, but man, if he had screwed this one up, he'd have to turn in his director card. In the end, I'm giving this version of West Side Story a 9.5 out of 10, which is the exact score I gave the original. All this to say, I can see myself jumping back and forth between versions depending on my mood.
Okay.
Fair?
That's a thing.
Yeah.
I don't like fair. Let's see what Letterboxd had to say. So, Letterboxd, we got half-star review from Chris Delivery. White people has to be stopped.
Fact.
Which is true. It's objectively true. I don't know what part of the movie that is referring to. Maybe the whole thing. And then Sam Amel said, there's a couple shots in here that are pure genius. Most of the shots in here are pure genius, excuse me. But most of the time, I'm just left sad over the modern state of movies. When you remake a classic, you are doomed to death, essentially. The original is everything great about musicals. This is everything horrible about musicals. Sam Amel, I need you to shut up.
I'm curious what they mean. I don't really understand.
I'm curious what they mean because I'm like, but this is like a good musical, like the new one. Like,
who else thought it was a good musical?
Well, let's see. CJ with exclamation points. Shot beautifully, acted wonderfully, arranged with so much of the original's edge and distinctness, Best American Musical of the Century. There haven't been that many, so fair, maybe. Maybe. It's only been 20 years. And then Clemimi _ said, when I say I want to date a bad boy, what I really mean is I want to date a jet who sings in harmony and practices his entrechats. I don't French, so I don't know.
Neither do I, apparently.
Or ballet, yeah.
Ballet as well, in the middle of the street. So that is what people had to say about that. And as I said, we are coming to the end of our time. And any last thoughts before we say goodbye?
Wow. Well, I think I'll just say, like, if you haven't, for some reason, haven't seen West Side Story yet, definitely watch it. And I think it's instructive to watch both of them for the similarities and differences in the scripting, in sort of minor placement and really put the songs, and just in, in approach to see how differently they shot stuff, things you could do with a camera that you guys, I'm sure, know more about than me, that you could do in 2021 that you couldn't do in 1961. I think they're worth seeing back to back, and continue the sort of Romeo and Juliet mismatched lovers tale in a way that, Cool as Ice, I don't know how much it really adds to that,
Not very much.
that story.
Not very
Hey.
much.
I don't think Romeo and Juliet had giant salt and pepper shakers.
Fair. But, we weren't there. We don't know much about what staging looked like in Shakespeare's time.
That is so true.
Speaking of staging, this is not a good segue because it has nothing to do with staging. But Nicole, when are we coming back?
We're coming back on a date that is soon, and I don't have in front of me.
In just 2 weeks, on August 21st.
On August 21st,
At
we are
7 o'clock. What are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about... It's going to be really tricky because you're not supposed to talk about it.
Oh, that's true. We're not supposed to talk about it. And yet there are no rules that a dog can't play basketball. So we won't say it, but I did just put the title card up for the people. We're going to be not talking about Fight Club and talking about Air Bud. So
movies about rules.
So thank you all for joining us, and subscribe and like and review and share everywhere, and go look at all the cool stuff Shawn does. He does much cooler stuff than us most of the time.
On DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo him all night long. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye.
The Celluloid Mirror is a production of 4 Mile Circus and is hosted by Shawn Mannion and Nicole Solomon. Learn more at 4milecircus.com. To keep up with the next episode, make sure to subscribe and click that button to get reminders. You can also join our Patreon at patreon.com/4milecircus. All the links are below. Our opening and closing music is Twisted by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his music at incompetech.com.
I ended up in that hall of mirrors. There was another girl. look like me. Exactly like me.
Can you come with me in my dreams?
That'll do, baby.
What happens when the story dies? The evil is set free.
I have to return some videotapes.